y'all, welcome to my shop. I enjoy turning elegant Christmas ornaments like these. They're made out of 3 pieces of wood, and the globes are hollow. They're very lightweight, but they're a little more complicated than some. I've got a workshop coming up with my club, the Chattahoochee Woodturners, and I needed an ornament that was a little simpler. And then recently, Hal Simmons did a demonstration for the Gwinnett Woodturners, and he did one that looks somewhat similar in appearance, but it's a single piece of wood. But it's a lot simpler, and that's what we're going to turn today. So let's get started. I like to start with a piece of dry wood about 1 3/4 inches square and about 4.5 inches long. Lots of wood works well. Red oak looks nice. Box elder, figured maple, ash. And when I use a square block like this, typically I'm just going to put it in here in a scroll chuck in between those jaws like that and get it centered, and that'll hold it just fine while I rough it. By doing it that way, not having to turn it initially between centers, I don't put a damaging mark here on what's going to be the very tip of the ornament from the point on the livestock, or the live center. Now, instead of using this square piece though, I have a lovely piece of dogwood that I'm going to use. It's just basically a dogwood branch. And it's not quite perfectly round, but I think it's going to be round enough to hold initially. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chuck it up, squeeze it pretty tight. Hopefully I'll get it turning roughly between center. And then I'm just going to put a tenon on this end and re-chuck it. So let's try that. Let's turn this slow and see if that runs fairly true. So just adjust this. I'm going to use a spindle gouge to just knock off some of that bark. I could use a spindle roughing gouge. So I'm going to simply use a 1/4 inch parting tool. I'm using a Nova chuck, so it has parallel jaws. Just enough there. Use that to make sure it'll just barely fit. So while we got it chucked up and secure, I'm going to go ahead and take off that bark. Go ahead and rechuck this. Okay, we're going to finish taking the tip down a little bit. Okay, I made a simple storyboard because I knew I'd be making a lot of these, and I think it helps. And you just have the key dimensions, and I make my template long enough where I can measure the rough stock I'm going to be using from here to here, and that gives me some flexibility. This is the waist that's going to be down on this end, and I just use it to again measure the length of the stock. So I can pick up a stick and see if it's going to be big enough. And then again, like I said, I've got the key dimensions. In this case, I'm using millimeter because that's a little easier to work with on these dimensions. I also like to have a place to mark with a pencil, so what I do is I tend to use a little file, and where the pencil mark's going to be on the storyboard, I just file me a little groove. So now I can hold a pencil up to it. I think I'm going to get rid of this this tip right here. It gets in the way when I'm trying to mark. But I'm going to mark there, there, and there. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take this down some. For that I'm going to use a spindle roughing gouge. So I'm just going to come in here take it down. I'm going to go ahead and take it down a little further. We're going to come back and remark that end. That's the tool rest a little bit high. Right about there. Now I'm going to use a 3/8 inch beating and parting tool for some of this work. It works kind of like a little skew. It's got a fairly sharp angle. So we're just going to kind of come in here and it'll get a catch like a skew if you're not careful. You don't ride the bevel. And now I've lost my mark again. That's close enough. So we're going to come in here and make a little V groove with this. Some of this work I'm going to use a tiny little 3/8 inch bowl gouge. I've got to take some of this out, so I'm just going to use this for bulk removal. Now, using a 3/8 inch detail gouge, I'm going to spindle gouge, let me say. Just put a little bit of a tip here. Okay, so that's the orientation I'm going to be turning. I think you can see that. So I'm going to, this is a little bit larger than that. I'm going to come down, so I've got that marked. I'm not going to get real fussy about some of these dimensions. I'm going to put this in my back behind here in my dust collector hood so I can see it. And now we're just going to make a big cove here from this point on down. To the bottom of that cove, you know, we got to change directions because we don't want to cut uphill. We're getting much thinner. I'm going to refine this. I want this to be a little rounder. Come in here with this small 1/4 inch detail gouge that allows me to go fairly deep. What it is, I need to sharpen this, so let me come back. Okay, I went over the scroll saw, cut off that little nib, makes it a little easier to get in here to mark this. So right here is where I'm going to come down and take this part right here, put a little V-cut here, and the diameter of this is going to be about 29 millimeters. Cut that V-cut. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this down right here where the V-cut's going to be. And we got a ways to go to get that down to 29. Just a touch more. Okay, I think that's got it. This is going to be a sphere, so let me go ahead and knock out some of this waste wood here. And right there is where the V is going to be. So now we're going to come back and pick up that cove again. And this tool performs much better now it's been sharpened it, because as we know, if it's almost sharp, it'll almost cut. Still got this tool rest too high, and maybe move it a little closer, I'll have a little better control. Let's try that slicing in again. Go ahead and make a V-cut here. Go ahead and take this down some more. Use my detail gouge to make it a little bit easier to cut in deep. That cove is really too small for that tool, so let's come in here and This is a little thick. Let's bring it down some. There we go. Just a trace. Okay, I like that. I'm going to go ahead and take this down some. A little too big. Okay, before we go much further, we're going to go ahead and sand this just a bit, and then we'll come back. Okay, I've sanded this up, and before we do a little polishing it on, I just want to show you a few little tips. When you're sanding, the most important thing is you don't lose this crisp edge. So you keep the sanding rounded in here in the coves. Same thing here, narrow it down, just round it between the coves. When you come over here, be careful you get that edge in there, and don't dull the point. Just bring it off like that. And come straight up when you're sanding that while it's turning. Same thing here, get down in here, but keep it moving. Keep it moving, keep it moving. This crisp edge, you don't want to lose that, so get down to it, don't round over it. And then we're going to use some U-But Triple E. I'm just going to Triple E in a kind of a wax compound. We're just going to apply that all over this, and it'll just polish this up. Tear off a little piece of kitchen paper towel, and we're going to speed this up a little bit. 15, 16, 17, 1800, somewhere in there. Keep this moving. Keep it moving. I'm going to fold this inside out, get a clean edge, make sure we've gotten all the compound off of here. That lets us know when we finished. I'm going to use a wax, an oil wax finish. It's got a little bit of canuba, a little beeswax, a little walnut oil in here. This product happens to be Mahoney's finish, oil wax finish, but there's a number of them, or you can make your own. Now we're going to finish shaping the end. I'm going to put a little ball on the end and then part it off. If I had a skosh more wood, would have probably been good. Reach around, kind of hold this. I'm not going to grab it, I'm just going to catch it. Slow it down a little bit. Okay, and I can sand that tip off, and there we go. Now I want to show you an alternative. We could use a bird cage awl, put a little starter hole here, and put in a screw eye similar to this one, and put a nice little cord on it, and that looks very attractive. But another alternative for one like this is you actually drill through the side. So we're going to actually see if we find an area where it looks particularly better, and I'm not sure that it does. And we're going to mark here in the middle, starter hole with this birdcage awl. I want to make sure I got a pretty good hole started here. We're liable to get a little blowout on the back. We're going to have to be careful with that, but and probably have to sand it a bit. But I'm going to use this drill bit. Instead of using a drill bit holder, I'm going to mount it in directly so it'll be a little more stable. And see if you can see this. I'm just going to do it perpendicular. And that didn't turn out badly at all. Now we simply just touch that up with a little bit of sandpaper before we put that final finish on that top. And we're going to thread a little cord through there. First, let me put a little finish on there. So I pick up this this item called it's in the sewing area, but it's a 1/16 inch thick rounded ribbon. You can get it in gold and you can get it silver. I have not been successful in finding it in red. Cut off about 8 inches so you have room to work with. Make you a simple overhand knot. Pull it through. Don't make it too long. About like that, so you can stick it in a branch. And then simply cut off the waste. And we're done. Now, friction polish works well with these, or you can use antique oil depending on the wood. You might want to consider making a small ornament stand when you give these for a gift, and that way they can display them all year long. And a little brass rod and a little turned wooden base. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like it, click the like button. If you're not a subscriber, why not? Go ahead and subscribe.